Welcome back. It's time now for On the Radar, where we ask an investing professional what they're looking at in today's markets. We're back again with Paul Harris. He's partner and portfolio manager at Harris Douglas Asset Management to talk about the geopolitical landscape around the world, and particularly the number of elections, most importantly, I guess, of course, in the United States, but elsewhere in the world as well. A lot of voters going to the polls, a lot of potential change in governments around the world.
Yeah, I think it's the largest number of elections going on in the world in a long, long time, and a very large percentage of the population. Obviously, India is one of them. That's why that makes it so big. Yeah, I mean, I think what it is more that I'm not sure that there's going to be tremendous change, but I think there's going to be there could be lots of volatility, and I think that to me, in that kind of chaos or volatility, there's always opportunity, and I think that's what you have to look for in the next little while. Whenever there's kind of, especially in the U.S. side, where people are saying all kinds of different things. Who knows who's going to end up running? But obviously Donald Trump is one of them. But people don't want Biden, et cetera. So I think there's going to be a lot of volatility, especially in the U.S. And I think that'll be an opportunity to kind of buy good companies when you see these things fall at the right time. So I think that's what you have to look for. With respect to who becomes into power and all those other things, it's very hard to make a judgment call on that, right? So I don't know. The U.S. system is sort of set up in a funny kind of way to not allow the president to actually do too much, depending on what Congress and the Senate looks like, right? So I think that obviously there's foreign policy issues that he can deal with, but I think that as a general rule, there's not too much you can enact in a way that can offset the stability of the U.S. economy and how it grows when nothing goes on. But I do think that that's going to be the issue. There's going to be lots of volatility around these things. And I think that if you are, as an investor, that's always an opportunity, right? So you can buy a great company that you like, you've done research on. And, like yesterday, that market just fell a lot. And so if you really liked a company, yesterday was probably a good day to go and buy something that you really liked. So I think that's kind of what you have to look for over the year. And that volatility can be helpful to you, as opposed to saying it's scary. It should be helpful to you, especially if you're a long-term investor. It's a great opportunity for people in long-term investing to buy things that they like, whether it's one of the tech stocks that you like or anything like that, right? So I think that's what you have to look for in the next little while, and not worry about the politics of it all or what's going to change and stuff like that. That may happen after November 6th. Right?
What about second Donald Trump presidency? He's vowing to raise tariffs on almost everybody that the U.S. trades on. He's vowing to ignore the commitments of NATO. It's certainly possible he will be more disruptive than he was the first time around.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously that's a big problem, but sometimes it's like anything. People say a lot of things to get a reaction, and then they don't really do any of these things, right? So, I mean, I think from a corporation point of view, obviously there'll be lower taxes, or he'll keep the tax cuts in place and stuff like that. Whether he can force, the NATO issue is much. I mean, I think Europeans have to think about it very differently, right? This was set up to create a world order, and I think that by doing what he's talking about, that extracts the U.S. from that world order, which is. I'm not sure that's the right thing for anybody, but I don't think it's even the right thing for the United States. But it's something that the Europeans and maybe Canadians obviously have to understand, right? But there's also been a lack on the European side, and I would argue in Canada as well, that because the U.S. was such a big player in that whole thing, that they kind of didn't really pay their fair share. And I think that that has to be reconciled, right? So you can't have the U.S. dominating that thing. So, but I think from a corporate point of view, I mean, there's only the worst thing is that you may increase these you may get lower taxes, which is I'm not sure you need, but you may get that, and less regulation on the banking side, et cetera, which is something that he was pushing for back then as well. So that I think the fear on the tech side may be the fact that he may be much more difficult on with tech companies, because I think he's at a from that side, the Republicans seem to be worried about kind of people like Meta and all these places that don't allow kind of conservative views to be published, especially on the social media side. I don't know if it affects Microsoft and all those guys, but I think social media companies will probably have much more of a difficult time.